Hey gamers, this is Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and today I'm going to be reviewing Warp's Edge from Renegade Games. This is part of the Solo Hero series, and let's have a look. Warp's Edge is a one-player, so that's right, solo-only bag building game in which you are playing one of 4 possible ships going up against one of several possible motherships and a deck of enemies to boot. For each of your ships, there's several options, so you'll have different hull and shield values, potentially some special abilities, although not on this one because the Artemis is fairly standard. And you'll have a collection of power tokens that's unique to each ship, which is something I'm going to explain a bit more in a moment. But as you can see, each ship is quite different and will have very different stats. So depending on the kind of game you'd like to play, you can pick a different ship and really change the feel of your adventure, try a different special power, have a different challenge to deal with in terms of your hull and shield values. The variety of the game really starts here. You'll also be choosing from various motherships, so they can be split into multiple parts. So this is kind of like fighting 3 different enemies at once. And they also have different difficulty levels. So I put out the Dread because it's the basic one. You might start with it if you decide to get the game. But just like your ships, the player ships, these flip over and you can see different variety. Each of these is going to have special conditions. The enemy deck is going to be made up differently on each of them. So this would mean 4 easy enemies, 4 medium, and 3 hard. But the configurations change depending on the ship. And these just offer you ways to have games that are different difficulties and different in terms of how it feels to play them. So the Revenant's kind of awesome if you like evil Transformers, because check it out, this one flips over from this innocuous looking ship into the Revenant. Watch out. So for the start of each game, you're going to choose who you want to go up against and who you want to be. You'll set your hull and shield values because you're going to get attacked throughout the game. You'll set up your enemy deck based on the easy, medium, and hard ratios that are stated above. So this deck is actually created from a larger deck of potential enemies, and I don't know who exactly is in here. It's randomized. You set up your token bag, so there's some white bordered starter tokens in here, but you also get a free one of whatever your yellow power token is. So I'll grab that and put that in the bag. And you'll also get a special skill, which basically means that you draw 2 cards from the skill deck and you choose one, put the other one on the bottom. So let's just say that I want Asteroid Run, and I'll put it right there. The goal of the game is, of course, to defeat the mothership, but you're doing it on a timer. You have a certain number of warp rounds, as indicated by the warps in the top left corner of whoever you're fighting, and those warps are your timer for winning the game. So what's going to happen is that every time you run out of tokens in your bag, you move on to a new warp. So this game is very much about the tension between getting enough tokens in your bag to make sure your warps aren't too short, but also tweaking what's in the bag so that all of your draws are good. Like in any deck or bag builder, you have some attack and you have some currency with which to buy new tokens. So this game comes with these really nice plastic trays, which I really appreciate. So you have lasers, and you can get different powered lasers for more or less energy. Of course, you want lots of these 3 energy, 3 laser attack tokens for later in the game. You have energy tokens, which are what you use to buy other tokens, or to repair your shields if your ship is damaged. You have evade tokens, because as I'm going to show you in a moment, you can choose to evade or to attack enemies, and you get different rewards for doing that. And then you also have power tokens. So these are actually loaded out specifically for the Artemis. Each of the ships is going to have a different configuration of these power tokens, which is going to affect the strategy of the game. So each of these has a special ability. There's even a little glossary on the back of the rulebook to help you understand what each power token does. And each ship you play is going to have a different set. So not only do the ships vary in terms of their special abilities and their stats, but they also differ in terms of the playstyle that's suggested by those ships because of what the tokens are able to do. So let's very quickly talk over the turn structure of the game, push the market up so it's out of the way. The first thing you're always going to do is have enemy arrivals. There will always be 4 enemies on the row, and you just draw them off of the deck. So in this case, we have a lot of these easier enemies because that's what the first 5 enemies on our deck are going to be. So we know the easier ones are on top, the harder ones are on the bottom, and you just work through. We also know that in the specific case of the Dread, this particular mothership won't attack you and can't be attacked unless you cleared out the enemy row. That's not actually true for all of the different motherships, and that's what makes the game interesting. The attack conditions are different each time you play, depending on who you choose to fight and who you choose to be. But what'll happen for you is you reach into your token bag and you're gonna pull out 5 tokens. So what we have here is 3 energy, so 1 2 energy and 1 1 energy token. And we also have 3 lasers worth of tokens, so 2 and 1. We also have 1 evade. And so the next thing that we're going to do is pilot actions. So we use our tokens to take actions after we fill the enemy row. So what I'm going to have to do is look out across these enemies and decide how I want to distribute the tokens that I've drawn. So as you look at all of your enemies, there are a few different things to consider. The first is that there are 2 ways to cope with any enemy. So the red on the left is for laser attacks. The blue on the right is for evade. And you'll need different values of those things in order to take out various ships. The other thing that's interesting, however, is that if you completely manage to defeat a ship using one or the other, your reward is different. So if I defeat the stalker using lasers, I'm going to get a blue evade token. If I defeat the stalker using my evade, I'm going to get a green energy token. So you have to think about what you actually have in terms of firepower. You also have to think about what you want in terms of reward. The other thing to think about is that any enemies who are left undealt with in some form at the end of your action phase are going to attack you. So there are 2 ways to keep an enemy from attacking you. One is to destroy or evade it altogether. The other is to stun it. And that basically means that you put a laser token on an enemy. It's not enough to completely kill it off, but it'll keep it from attacking you next turn. And then you just keep your red token up top and count the amount of damage you've done over the course of multiple rounds. So looking what I've got, I might say, all right, so for evade, there's only one that I can completely get it rid of using my 1 evade. So I might put this token here on the stalker, knowing that I'm going to evade it. Then I have 3 lasers, but it takes 2 lasers to kill these 2 and 3 to kill the spider. So the question is, do I think it's worth it to kill one of these and then stun another? So the way that I'm going to decide this partially is based on damage. So I know this one's going to do 2 damage at the end of the round if I don't do something about them. So this is a candidate for destruction or stunning. The other thing I'm going to have to consider is the rewards that I could get. What reward do I want to go into my bag right now? Because everything that you evade or destroy, your reward token goes into the bag before that next round and you could draw it. So basically I'd be deciding, do I want an O token? Do I want a reward of getting some extra tokens? And the other thing to consider is, do I want to try to evade these since the laser rewards are pretty good if I do so? So I think for me right now, I don't necessarily want to draw 3 tokens from my bag and have the warp end too soon. I could stand to get an O token. So here on the power, for me, the O token is a symbol of a ship taking off. And it is this overdrive, which allows you to place a token between 2 adjacent targets. So yes, placement of enemies does matter. And it counts as 1 maneuver against both of your targets. So basically I can use it to double up against 2 enemies that are next to each other on the table. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and put the 2 here. And then I can just stun either of these. I'm going to get attacked for 1 either way. Which one do I want to kill sooner? Let's go ahead and put the 1 on the spider, because that way I only have to get 2 more lasers to defeat them if that's what I decide to do. Then I have this energy left over. I don't need it to repair my hull. It's not really time for an asteroid run just yet. I don't need to draw 3 tokens from my bag and add them to my token pool. So what I'm going to use them for instead is making purchases. The other option I would have, by the way, is see this hold. Normally you have to get rid of all of your tokens on a turn. Hold allows you to hold 1 token until the next turn because there's 1 space. Some of the ships have more than 1 space in the hold. And this allows for some combos as you get a sense of what you have in your bag and what you might draw on a coming turn. But for now, let's just spend this energy. So I have 3 energy. I think what I might like to do is just go ahead and spend it. A level 3 laser into my bag because that costs 3 energy and I'm just going to spend that money. Let's do it. New tokens will go directly into the bag. And now we are going to just sort of resolve all the things that we've done. So I used 1 evade on the stalker. This is going to go into discard. The stalker has been evaded, so I will gain 1 energy token and put that in my bag. So that's discard. This guy is eliminated for now. And I'll get a little 1 energy token. This venom has now similarly been eliminated because 2 lasers, takes 2 lasers to kill it. I get an O token. So this will go into discard. This will go into discard, and I will grab my O token to put into the bag. Nothing's going to happen to the Viper, which means he's going to get me next turn. The spider is still stunned, so he doesn't die, nothing happens, we just leave it here for now. So the next phase is the enemy attacks phase, so only the Viper is going to attack me because I've stunned the spider. So the Viper is going to hit me for 1 and will come at my shield for 1. Once your shields are out, then your hull starts to take damage. Shields are recoverable, the hull is not. So be careful how bad you let things get over here on the yellow track. The spider, as I've noted before, has been stunned and will not attack, but now I'm going to unstun him by moving this token to the top of the card, and that means that I have 1 damage against the spider with 2 to go if that's the direction that I choose to take with getting rid of him. I could also just choose to use some evade tokens and try for this other reward. Then the pilot plans, and what that means is that I'm going to draw 5 new tokens, and we're going to begin again. We'll refill the row of enemies and go through the entire process all the way through the game. And that's an overview of how you play Warp's Edge. So now for some final thoughts. Overall, I think that Warp's Edge is excellent. This is a really great option for solo players. If you're looking for a solo game to play, I'm just going to say right out, this is a very good choice. The game itself is not too expensive, and there's a lot of variety right in the box. Not only are there several different fighter ships to play as, but there are also a bunch of different motherships to go up against. And if you don't want to just randomly pick pitched battles to engage in, there's also a storybook that comes with this game that lets you play a campaign, that gives you some tweaks to your setup, and allows you to make some choices. So there are a number of ways to approach Warp's Edge, even though it's still a fairly compact game with a very simple gameplay structure and at a good price. The gameplay itself is also just the right level of tense to be a really good time. You can scale difficulty, of course, by choosing different motherships to fight, but the game's options that it gives you in terms of tactical choices, what tokens to go for, what rewards to try to earn off of your enemies, whether to actually kill off all the enemies on the row, or maybe let one hit you to prevent something nastier from coming off the deck. There's so many different choices when it comes to playing this game that every turn you take is tense, and it's full of interesting things to think about. As you go from warp to warp and you pick up more skill cards, you think, oh man, what skill do I want? How do I deploy it? There's just a lot going on, and it's all going on in a way that doesn't actually detract from the simplicity of the gameplay. I think that the turn structure in this game is gloriously simple, that the game is very straightforward to play, and that combination of simplicity and choice is just really excellent, and it's a sign of very well thought out, well tested design, and it's really paying off on the table. Even the rulebook for this game is extremely clear, and it's really one of the better rulebooks that I have encountered. It really seems to anticipate where you might not be totally sure what to do, and to add just that little bit of text in that gives you a little bit of guidance or prevents you from going down a wrong path in terms of your interpretation of the rules of the game. So just as a package, I really think that Warp's Edge is excellent. If you're a solo player, it's absolutely worth your investment, especially if you like bag building. And really the only reason I think that you might not like it is if you really hate randomness, if you really hate token pulls, if you don't like to bag build, then of course Warp's Edge as a bag building game is not for you. That said, I do think that it is the best bag builder that I have played. I definitely think that Warp's Edge is a better game than Coffee Roaster. I don't care if you disagree, come at me. And while I love Orleans, its solo and cooperative scenarios just aren't enough to create an experience like what you can get out of Warp's Edge. The only other thing it might be lacking is that, even though there's a lot of variety within the game, there's still really only so many enemies that you'll see. There's only so many motherships to go up against. There's only so many pilots to play. And as quick and snappy as this game is, it is going to need some expansions at some point, I think, if you want to keep it in really heavy rotation. But wanting more of a good game is hardly a problem. I will be really interested to see how I feel about this game in another year, because I think it might be one of the ones that lasts. For this moment, I'm very impressed with it. I think it's excellent gameplay, and I give it a 9 and a Dice Tower seal of excellence. Happy gaming.